Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We got an exciting match for you today. We are in the finals of the summer. No, I guess it's not a summer tournament. We've been doing this for a while, but it's a tournament. It's debate. And I'm really excited. We got the number 1 seed. Kirk Kowalkowski is going up against the number 7 seed, Brian Michaels. Brian returning to debate in the competitive form this year. He beat Cameron Holtzman and he beat Nazario Montenegro to earn his spot here today. Kirk, the number 1 seed, hasn't played in regular play in a hot minute. Got here and in the number 1 seed, played Coho in round number 1, and then in round number 2, played Joe Fairley and won by knockout in both scenarios. So impressive matches for both players, but I think Kirk really wants to get back to Cody, and I think Brian at first was like, yeah, I'm going to come back and it's going to be fun. I'm going to play. And now he's playing Kirk and he's like, yeah, I think I want to win this. That's what I'm thinking prior going in. I've been talking to them for the last 30 minutes, but we didn't really talk about this match and how they're feeling all that much. So we're going to talk to them in a minute. But first off, I want to talk to Mark first. Mark, welcome. You've been here for most of these matches. How are you feeling going into this one? Your thoughts on Kirk versus Brian? You're muted. You're not muted on the thing, but I can't hear you. Oh. Nope, we're gonna go to Coho. Coho, you're here. Yes. You ran a mile to get here, and what do you think about this one?
I ran a mile. I broke speeding laws. I'm pretty sure there's a warrant for my arrest in Polk County, but I made it. And I didn't want to miss this. I really wanted to be here, so I'm happy I got to make it because Kirk is playing great, and Brian has judged me more than any person besides my mother in the last 3 years, and I cannot wait to be on this side of it for him. But these two are like, I watch them argue. I watch them agree on YLS all the time. To watch them actually fight each other tonight, I can't wait. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Mark, do we have success?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, okay. I can hear you. There's the sultry tones of your voice. Go ahead, Mark.
No, this should be pretty exciting. Kirk been here for a while. He's always great. Made his way through this tournament, and now we got Brian, who I don't know before this if I had ever seen Brian debate or at least been on the judging table, but the last couple of matches he's been in were pretty impressive, especially since he's coming back from, quote unquote, off the couch, so to speak. And he's back in a number 1 contender match. So yeah, this should be really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to talk to the players right now. We're going to bring in the lower seeded player first, Brian Michaels. Brian, welcome. I consider you one of the heads of the Fanzone Debate League, and now I can't even use you to concoct this exciting match, which was upsetting, but it's very fun to see you here at the finals of the tournament. And now you're going up against Kirk. You've judged Kirk many times. I'm sure you will continue to judge him this evening, but you will have no power in that judgment. Your thoughts about going up against Kirk? Was my assessment of your feelings correct, or are you still just you're having fun? It's a good time.
First of all, Kirk and I are judging each other every single time we look at Letterboxd, much less on a call together. So just assume that we're judging each other at all times and rarely agreeing. But we do it in fun. I don't know. I think I am, for the most part, still just doing this for fun. If I don't make it any farther, I'm not going to be crushed about it. I don't have aspirations like, oh, I think I'm going to be champion. I would love to be, go on to the next match and maybe even win that one. But, but I am doing this mostly for fun. But I think that just judging so much, I think kind of giving that itch to get back into it because it's fun. I think I've said before, I think it's no mistake that the people that tend to get to the higher levels of this are people who judge a lot. If Cody judges a lot, I judge a lot, Kirk judges a lot, Jacoby is judged, things like that, because you get to kind of see what works and what doesn't, see what's on the other side of the table. So I enjoy it. It's going to be fun. This is as far as I made it on my last run. We'll see if history repeats itself or if I finally get over the hump.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's bring in the number 1 seed, Kirk Kowalkowski. Kirk, do you judge Brian every time you're on Letterboxd?
Yes.
Absolutely not. We just, very, very positive feelings and very, respectful of opinions and ideas. So, no, Brian's a good dude.
Kirk, how are you feeling about going up against Brian? You've seen his other matches, I would imagine, so you kind of know what you're getting into. Are you focused on defeating Brian, or are you just focused on I need to get to Cody and win the title?
Oh no, I need to focus on Brian. When I heard Brian's come back, I assumed he'd have success in this. I talked to Brian, and we do disagree a lot, but I know he's very good at backing up his opinions and his ideas, and he thinks the way he does for a reason. So I figured he'd be good at it, but when I saw his match against Holtzman, I was like, oh no. And I was rooting for Nazario very much in their match because I didn't want to play Brian. So no, I'm not overlooking Brian at all. In my last match against Joe, I said I think Joe's next big thing. This thing, I think Brian is kind of the big thing now. He's really made a splash here. He reminds me of myself in my first tournament, how I kind of just came in as like, oh yeah, this will be fun, and then just kind of picked up steam. But yeah, Brian and I have been disagreeing with each other for over 5 years now. And I maybe, doing it in an organized setting like this will cause some kind of catharsis and healing, or maybe it'll engender a bunch of bad new feelings, and Brian will hate me more than he already does when it's all done. We'll see.
All right. Well, we will get into the match right now. This is how it's going to work. So there are going to be 4 prep questions based on categories the players drafted. They are each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing. At the end of those debates, Coho, Mark, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the point. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point, and the first person to 3 points wins the match. If we are all tied up after the 4 prep questions, we will move on to a bonus question decided by wheeldecide.com. Any questions from the competitors as we get into this? Let's do it. All right, we're going to kick this off with the category of directors, which was drafted by Kirk. Category of directors. So the question is, which Martin Scorsese crime scene is the most exciting? I am pumped. Kirk, we're going to start with you. You get 1 minute when you start talking.
The most exciting Scorsese crime scene is from Gangs of New York, but despite what my opponent's about to tell you, it is the final scene, the climactic scene, Rabbits versus Natives, paralleled with the New York City riots in Gangs of New York. Throughout this movie, we are following 2 parallel tracks. We are following Amsterdam and his quest for revenge against Bill, and we are in the periphery seeing the building political unrest in New York City. Both these things brilliantly boil to a head at the same time as the draft riots break out, as the gang fight is about to start. We see violence and bloodshed breaking out throughout the city as we see the anticipation and the buildup of the fight. But instead of getting more of the same at the beginning, a cannon goes off and everything's different now. We're now in an active war zone, and we get even more violence, more bloodshed, more action than we got in that first fight. But we're also getting a very dramatic, very intense, and very personal showdown between these 2 enemies that we've been waiting to see go at it through the entire movie. And that's why this is the most exciting scene.
Okay. We will move over to Mr. Michaels. Ryan, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
All right. In terms of exciting, the Natives versus the Dead Rabbits that opens the Gangs of New York is Scorsese's best example. The excitement starts well before the action as we watch the rabbits prepare for war, donning makeshift protection, wielding improvised weapons of all kinds. The gangs gather. Mont kicks up the door. We enter the quiet, stark, white, snow-covered town square of 5 Points, and the anticipation builds. We get our first introduction to Bill the Butcher, which in itself is exciting. The natives file out and fill the town square from every direction. The rabbits are joined by several other gangs. Priest and Bill give their rousing speeches and challenges, and as the tension hits its peak, the armies charge. The moment the fighting begins, everything goes to 11. Hacking with knives and cleavers and clubs, people are gored and sliced, bones broken. We see the viciousness of Bill for the first time as he slices through the crowd and stabs Priest with both hands and kills him. As the scene ends, it pulls back and shows the bloodshed and snow of the battleground, and the bodies of all the fallen. And this is how the movie starts. The rest of the film is good, but never quite lives up to this exciting opening.
Time. Okay. 2 Gangs in New York scenes. Love it. Well, maybe not. But anyway, 5-minute freeform. When one of you starts talking, I will come in to give you the 1-minute warning I will throw up the 1-minute warning when the time comes. If one of you is going on too long, I will throw up the let's move on. And if one of you still doesn't shut up, I will throw up the let your opponent talk. And don't make me do that, because then I'll have to send Nick to your house. So anyway, 5-minute freeform when one of you starts.
What's your question? Go ahead.
Okay. I'd say begin by saying that your scene isn't that exciting. I feel like it's a fight we've seen plenty of times before. It's the big gang fight where you have the main characters walking around while extras half-ass pretending to hit each other in the background, and the main character has plot armor and no one's jumping from behind. You have Daniel Day-Lewis swinging that his cleave around and very obviously not hitting anybody. And then it's just very slow, and it's almost like it's Thelma Schumacher, who is kind of doing her worst work of her career in this scene, realizes halfway through, oh my God, we got to do something. So they throw in that weird guitar riff and it becomes an MTV music video, and it just cut. And you really can't even see anything at all. There's just no interesting action to this.
I don't see how you say the main character has plot armor when one of the main characters of that opening scene is Liam Neeson, who you assume is going to have a bigger role as Priest, but you see his character die so early. And I mean, you would have assumed he'd have a bigger role in this movie, but he dies first scene out. No plot armor there. He's one of the main characters. He's dead. And so you're thinking at this point, anything can happen. And that alone is exciting. As far as your scene, I'm going to call you out on your opening because you talked about how yours has the rabbits versus natives fight. There's no fight. They line up to fight, but they never actually fight. They get scattered. It's completely anticlimactic because we don't get the fight we want to see. They gather, but the cannons interrupt and everyone disperses. The only people that really still fight for the rabbits and the natives are Amsterdam and Bill, and they don't even have a real fight because Bill runs out a couple times and slices him. But then he gets some shrapnel and he gets basically mortally wounded, and we don't even realize that till after the fact.
Exactly. That's why this is the more exciting scene, because we think, oh, we're just going to get more of the same, and then that cannon goes off, and there's still a fight going on. There's the soldiers fighting both sides. Now it's a 3-way fight now because you have the soldiers fighting gangs from both sides, and you have Bill, like I said in my opening, instead of just guys hitting each other, you have a more personal fight. You have you have a more interesting, better looking fight, better cinematography. You have these two personal rivals that we've actually know who they are now. That's the other thing about your fight is it's not as exciting because we're not connecting anybody. We know who these people are, why they're fighting, what they're doing. Yours is the first building block that the entire movie builds on and ends at my scene because it's so much more intense and exciting.
Well, your scene isn't the climax, though. Like I said, it's completely anticlimactic because you don't get that. The riots are largely a montage of brief glimpses of scenes of vandalism and looting. And then once the army comes in, they put down the riots so quickly and easily, and it doesn't even have time to get exciting. And as far as the gangs that disperse, you don't even see much of the armies fighting them. It's just they've just kind of gone. And again, the ones they do encounter, the army just puts them down with no problem because they're carrying guns as opposed to knives and things. So none of that is exciting at all. So you can talk about it being different because it gets interrupted by the cannons. That doesn't make it different. It makes it excitement that didn't happen. It's a fight that didn't happen.
It subverts your expectation because it's like a symphony that repeats a phrase from the beginning, but then takes it from an earlier movement, but then does something different with it. You get that same build up. They're playing the same music. You see that same lineup, and you think, oh, it's just going to be another scene of people just standing around hitting each other, and you get something completely different and a lot more exciting because now it's not just, oh, these nameless great, it's much more personal. These two characters that we've waited to see face off are facing off in a very interesting and exciting way. Bill's hidden in the smoke. We don't know where he's at. We don't know what's going to happen to Amsterdam, and it's much more interesting because now we care. Now we've spent this whole movie with them, and we care what's going on as well as caring about what's going on in the city. And I disagree about the soldiers because there's very much a buildup of you see the riders destroying the city and tearing things apart before the soldiers come in and take it down.
The two characters you are waiting to see fight at the end, but that thing lasts about 10 seconds. Like I said, Bill comes out and slices him a couple times, and then it's basically over. Then they kneel facing each other. But again, there's no excitement. It is the climax of that scene, but it's not an exciting scene. It's excitement. It also doesn't just mean action packed to start with. Excitement's also in the anticipation, the lead up. Like you think the whole movie does that. Mine does it from the very beginning, the opening, the excitement before things really explode. I mean, when the lead up to the battle, you hear the speeches, just you're getting riled up, ready for this battle. That's excitement alone. Bill the Butcher's screen presence alone, especially his introduction, is exciting. It offers our first glimpse of his this charismatic character. He's dangerous, being played by maybe the greatest actor of our time. And after this scene, we can't wait to see where the rest of the film to take him. It's got us excited from moment one.
You're right. It is all about anticipation. And my scene is filled with anticipation. The building of the riots, the preparing of the fight, it's full of anticipation. But then when you get to that moment, it turns into something else, and it's still exciting. Like you said, it's all just about action. It's not just about one army smashing into another army. It's more personal now, but it's just exciting because, like I said, these are two characters. We want to see a personal confrontation. It would have been so anticlimactic if you just go another fight of a bunch of people banging around, them looking for each other. The fight, it's just the two of them now with all that action happening around, ancillary around them.
Time. Wow, you guys are respectful. Okay. I would hope so.
I'm sorry.
We're going to start with Brian. Brian, you get 1 minute to close when you start talking.
I don't see how there's even a question here. In the opening, from the assembling and arming of the dead rabbits, the gathering of the gangs, the facing off to the square, to the rousing speeches by Bill and Priest, just the preamble raises the excitement to huge levels before the fight even starts. That build-up and anticipation have us on the edge of our seats already. That's the definition of excitement. Then things go from 0 to 60 and nothing flat. The battle itself is chaotic, it's brutal, it's gory. It culminates in Bill killing Priest and making a statement that we're witnessing a new iconic character. The rest of the movie never comes close to living up to that opening, including the anticlimactic final sequence. We think we're building up to this final battle, big epic final battle, but we never get that. We get a montage of rioters easily put down. We get the gangs lining up to fight, but immediately dispersed by cannons, and then an all too brief, unsatisfying Amsterdam Bill confrontation. Everything is over so quickly and is so completely anticlimactic. The opening scene just puts the final fight to shame. I'm done.
Okay. All right, we're going to move over to Kirk. Kirk, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
To get excited about something, you have to be invested in it. In Brian's scene, there's no investment whatsoever. You're walking through a cave full of hobos. You don't know why they're there, what they're doing. They walk out to an empty, barren, kind of bland-looking winterscape, and a guy dressed up as homeless Willy Wonka walks out and starts screaming. We don't know why he's there, what he's doing, or why they're even fighting. Again, it's a fight that's very uninteresting. It's not dynamic shot. It's not interesting to look at. And then they just hit each other until somebody gets stabbed. And I guess that happened. The rest of the movie builds off that and builds up to my scene where you have, as Brian said himself, it's not all about just pure action, army versus army. How boring it would have been just to see that again. We get something completely new with the riots, the everything going on in the city around it. And then you have that personal interaction. It doesn't have to be the excitement and the intensity and the drama comes from those two characters when they're on their knees looking at each other. As far as excitement goes, Brian's scene is the appetizer. Mine is the very satisfying main course.
Time. Okay. So we will bring in the judges.
A disappointing dessert.
Hey, keep it down.
No, hey, point off.
Strike it from the record.
Hit me while I was going back to my corner.
No crotch hits. Okay. All right, you guys ready?
I
hate this already.
All right. As I said, very respectful. I enjoyed it, even though Brian punched Kirk on his way back to his corner. That was rude.
I didn't hear the bell. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. This was good. I thought that both gave me good descriptions of why their scenes were exciting. And exciting is, I know Kirk hates exciting. I know Brian hates exciting. These adjective type questions. But I thought they both did a very good job of explaining why their scenes were exciting, maybe even in different types of ways. But on the whole, I was excited by both scenes. What ultimately I went with Brian. I thought that Brian did a really good job taking down Kirk's scene, and like Kirk did the initial buildup of like, this is why my scene is exciting, and Brian, with his knowledge of the movie, was kind of able to really convince me why the scene wasn't, and Kirk spent most of the main argument fighting back against that, and I don't think he really got the leg up on it, and it wasn't until the end with admittedly the very funny hobo Willy Wonka whatever he said that made me laugh really hard, but I thought that was maybe a little too little too late of a little stab against Brian. I thought Brian had done a good job up to that point selling his scene, the excitement before, after, and taking Kirk's down. But this was really great to start out, in my opinion. Mark, where are you going?
Yeah, sometimes like whenever we have these questions, and then we got a couple of people that pick something from the same movie, I get a little nervous sometimes because usually we get a no, mine's better, no, mine's better, and like we didn't get that here, so that was kind of nice.
At least it wasn't Jackie Robinson.
Jesus Christ.
Glad I wasn't there for that. I did pick Kirk for this one. I thought he did something really neat in his closing. I feel like he was able, because I did buy like his argument of like we kind of spend the whole movie building anticipation to this thing that happens, and then like all these different things happen, and not what we expect happens. But I think he was able to explain how the whole movie builds anticipation up into this final battle, but he also did that without having to admit that Brian's scene was good to build off of, and I was kind of impressed by that, and so the main reason I gave him the point. So yeah, for me, I thought Kirk took that one.
All right, Coho, you're deciding the first one.
Hate this. I think this opening round is much like the scene Brian picked, down to the two hobos, as Kirk says, walking through and swinging axes. I thought this is a really good fight. I thought that like Kirk did a really good job out the gate of hitting Brian's scene, but I think Brian also did a really smart job of countering what Matt, like Brian was really good at pinpointing, I think, the things that were really strong attacks on him and finding ways to kind of just Neo move out of the way. So I gave it to Brian. I think that was a really strong counter about the point about the payoff that I don't think Kirk totally was able to fully recover from. So I lean slightly Brian.
Okay. All right. So we are going to get into the next question with Brian in the lead. The question was in the category of Criminal Underworld, which was drafted by Brian. The question is, what is the best action scene in a John Wick movie? So, Brian, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
John Wick 4 is packed with great action scenes, one after another, including the scene that represents the best of what the franchise has to offer. With the clock ticking, John ducks into this multi-floor upscale home that's either abandoned or under renovation, and is, of course, pursued by an army of assassins out to collect the bounty on his head and stop him from getting to that duel. The next 7 minutes has some of everything we want in a John Wick movie and more. It's got plenty of guns. It's got hand-to-hand combat. Trekker's dog gives us multiple dog moments we've come to love in the franchise, including one that looks like something straight out of a horror movie. But what really sets it apart is the centerpiece of this sequence, which is a 2-minute overhead shot that follows Wick as he goes from room to room, floor to floor, taking out assailants. It's video game-like in all the best ways. This creative perspective gives the film a whole new dynamic, and audiences loved it, and that's the scene they were talking about. Add in that Dragon's Breath incendiary shotgun, and you have this unique, exciting, stylish, visually dynamic action scene that goes above and beyond, figuratively and literally, just more of the same John Wick Kung Fu.
Okay, we're going to go over to Kirk. Kirk, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
What makes great John Wick action? It's visceral. It's up close. It's in your face. You feel the hits. You feel the punch. Every little mini fight's important. There's great pacing. There's great cinematography, and you always care about what's happening. I think this is encapsulated in the Osaka hotel fight in John Wick Chapter 4. From the time the lights go out to the final sword fight, you have a little bit of everything. You have swords. You have bows and arrows. You have gung fu. You have sumo wrestlers. All these really cool things going on. Everything's given every little mini set piece is given its moment to shine. You have Donnie Yen just being a badass and kind of bringing a little bit of comic relief to the scene. And you have some great character moments. You have great character moments between John and Kane. You have great character moments between Kane and Koji. So that keeps it going. It's not just punching and kicking, which has plenty of great action and different creative things, but also gives you like grounded character moments to care about and think about beyond just mindless fighting.
Time. Okay. Another choice with the same movie. I didn't even realize this going into it. Both incredible picks. I'm hyped. Gentlemen, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
I feel like the action in mine is also telling a story beyond just cool action. Yours is kind of just an action that takes place at one location. On mine, like there's moments like when he could have finished Tracker and instead chooses to save the dog. That moment changes Tracker's relationship with Wick and will eventually lead to him acting as an ally rather than an enemy when he gets to the stair sequence. I just think that yours has a lot of cool action sequences, but it's just it is just more of the same action, which, as you said in the last debate, more of the same is kind of boring.
Okay, some crazy things you said there. First of all, you accuse mine of being one location. Yours is one location. It's one building with many floors that look exactly alike, so nothing changes there dynamically. Mine has plenty of location changes. You have the opening scenes out in the lobby. You have rooftop. You have the fight in the garden. The scenes of my scenes, the trophy room, there's plenty of change in different locations in mine. And call it more of the same is crazy because you have every scene. You have different, like I said, you have that scene at the beginning of bows and arrows. You have the scene with the swords. You have the personal sword fights. You have the sumo wrestlers. There's constantly the action is constantly ramping up and changing. Your scene is the dragon fire over the headshot. We'll talk about in a minute. And other than that, it's ultimately more of the same. It's shooting and him taking guys down with jujitsu. That's all your scene is beyond the fire scene. And I'm ready to take that down whenever you are.
First of all, if I said something about location, that was a misspeak. I was not attacking the fact that it was a location because obviously yours is many places. But I feel like that's one of the problems with your scene is mine feels like one epic scene. Osaka, while it's certainly full of cool action, it feels more like a series of shorter segments back to back, like you call the mini fights, the lobby battle, the rooftop battle, the Kane's kitchen battle, that showroom battle. And they all make a whole sequence eventually drag on a little long and you eventually get numb to the action. More doesn't equal better. Mine does in a tight, like 7 minutes, what yours had to stretch out to 25.
I think you're arguing semantics now. I'm not going to get into this. This was accepted as a scene, as one scene. It was not debated or questioned. So this is a scene.
Qualify. I'm just saying that mine feels tighter.
But I would say I would disagree because I think the pacing of mine is great. And that's it. It never slows down. You're like, oh, I'm bored with this because you always have something new happening. You have the scene in the kitchen with Donnie Yen. He's doing kind of cool stuff with his blind fighting. He's kind of like lightening the mood because it's technically good guys versus good guys at that point. So he's not killing anybody. So he makes it a little funny. You have that scene, that great scene where she's crawling up the guy on the steps, stabbing her in the back. You have the scene where he gets the nunchucks in the trophy rooms, that great lighting. And it comes down to that great personal one-on-one fight between Kane and Koji. So you have so much going on with yours. Like I said, is a bunch of very like baseline generic John Wick fighting. And then let's talk about the Dragon Breath. The Dragon Breath, like you said, is a video game, not in a good way. It's basically the original Grand Theft Auto from the original PlayStation. It's just one overhead shot, and it takes away everything good about John Wick. It takes away that close up, that visceral you see a guy running on fire. I'm just that close. Good.
The overhead sequence is so much fun to watch, and those incendiary shotguns they introduce are the coolest weapons in the Wick franchise. Not only powerful and deadly, but they add like an exciting new visual dynamic that stands out instead of people just falling down from gunshots or arrows. We've seen arrows, we've seen sword fights, we've seen just regular guns, and this adds something new to a new perspective to get you excited. Your showroom scene. First of all, the trophy room scene, as you called it, it's basically a rehash of John Wick 3, where they also fought in a very similar environment with glass cases with armor and weapons and things. So they're rehashing that. As far as, and when you talk about the arrows, in the early part of your scene, the arrows versus guns is ridiculous because these stormtrooper armor is apparently useless because every arrow is going right through and killing them, just like the stormtroopers against Ewok rocks and sticks. It's just an excuse to keep the bad guys faceless, and they don't even stick with it, as Hiroyuki ends up pulling a gun at later instead.
Couple of things I would say. The thing about the fire breath scene is it gets repetitive. Not only is it like impersonal and just I can't even tell what's really happening. It just guy gets set on fire. Another guy gets set on fire. Another guy gets set on fire. That's at the point in this movie where I'm like, okay, what else you got? The gun's cool, but let's move on and do something else because it's just him setting guy on fire over and over again. Rehash John Wick Chapter 3, pretty good fight. So I don't mind seeing shades of that again. And as far as everything else you were saying. With the trophy room fight, I think it's there's a lot there. Like I said, he gets the nunchucks, and you said it was ridiculous. It's John Wick, of course, it's going to be over the top ridiculous. And I also want to mention those great armor that those high table soldiers wear in. Add to the awesome John Wick theatrics, which is also something great about these movies.
The entire time, the clock is ticking and time is working against Wick. It further raises the stakes, makes the action tighter and more focused, as he has a destination to get before a deadline. Yours is just kind of just another fight in another place. Osaka is just chaos and
time.
Sorry.
Okay. We're gonna start with Kirk for closings. Kirk, you get 1 minute when you start talking.
Brian says that the Osaka fight is chaos. It's John Wick controlled chaos that we love from these movies. Everything, you get these great moments. Brian's trying to make it sound like it's a hodgepodge. It's these great individual moments that everybody, all these different characters, all these different action pieces get their chance to shine. It's beautifully done. Like I said, you get great character moments. You start with a huge giant fight and you end with a very personal sword fight. So you get a little bit of everything and it's fantastic. His scene, he talks about the ticking clock, big deal. There's a goal in his scene. John's goal in his scene is to get somewhere at a certain time. His goal in my scene is to get away and to escape from the high table. He has a goal. It doesn't matter if there's a ticking clock. His scene is repetitive. Like I said, it's very basic John Wick shooting and knocking guys over with that few minutes of tracking shot that is very un-John Wick-like, and it gets boring. I can only see a guy get cut on fire so many times before I kind of lose interest in it, and I want to see those guys on fire up close. I don't get that because the shot's not very good.
Time. All right, we're going to move over to Brian. Brian, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
I'm not going to pretend I didn't enjoy the Osaka scene because this whole movie is a blast. But if I'm going to pick the best action scene, it doesn't mean I'm picking the longest one. I'm picking the one that's able to entertain me more while keeping the action focused. The one that was more creative and 4 movies in was still able to show us something new and exciting. Even if you took out the cool overhead sequence, which is anything but boring, though I don't know why you'd want to take that out because it's amazing, my scene is more consistent in quality, more creative, more dynamic, and it progresses the story. Meanwhile, the Osaka Continental scene, while action-packed, offers nothing we haven't really seen before, whether it be more of the same that we've seen in every John Wick film or introducing this daredevil superpowers that Kane has that makes suspending disbelief difficult. It's fine, it's entertaining, but it's not the best. Taking like 7 action sequences and mashing them together into one 25-minute, yes, a scene, lessens the effect of each one of those, though, and starts to feel bloated and dragged out, especially if you start watching some of the half-hearted background fighting that you just said you didn't like in the last debate. By the time we get to movie 4, I'm looking for something new to stand out, something that can make me sit up and say, okay, that was cool. And that's exactly what my scene accomplished.
Time. All right, I'm going to bring in the judges.
I like when we pick the same movie because it's less stuff I have to watch.
Yeah.
I didn't know what anyone picked, so when I was like, surely this can't happen again after getting to New York. Keep it going. This is entertaining.
Okay, I am ready. Are you guys?
Give me a second.
Okay. While Mark is writing, do you guys ever think about Roman numerals?
All the time. I'm not even joking.
All right.
Okay. There's somewhere for that to go. Maybe we'll get there on the next one. Coho, you decided the last one, so you are starting this one. Go ahead, sir.
I thought this was a really cool fight. Like, I thought there's a lot of really interesting ideas that both of you posed. I thought there's a lot of great, like, sort of in the keeping of your question, ducking and jumping through each other's arguments. You guys are doing a good job of emulating your picks. I went with Brian. I think that Brian sold me a little bit more as to. I know Kirk kind of tried to ding the ticking clock purpose, but I think Brian sold me on why that makes his stand out a little bit more strongly. So I lean slightly Brian.
Okay. I have thoughts. I love this. I fucking love this movie so much. I think it is so good. And I thought that, again, both are really, really good scenes. I like Brian's scene more, but I went with Kirk. I thought that Kirk almost lost me towards the end of the main round. I think he got a little flustered and started to stumble a little bit, and I was like, "Whoa." He opened himself up a little bit for a couple punches from Brian that I don't think Brian totally delivered on. That being said, both set up their scenes perfect in their openings, which is what these guys do. But I thought that for the majority of the main round, Kirk did do a good job of bringing down the overhead scene. I personally think it's fucking awesome. I love watching it. It is my favorite scene from that movie. That and maybe the cars and the Autobahn thing is pretty fucking cool. But I thought Kirk did a good job of bringing down the overhead thing. When he said the dragon's breath thing, like getting people caught on fire, like it's nothing new. Like, and that it does look like a bad video game. Like, again, I thought that he did a good job of bringing that down. Brian, on the other hand, I never really felt like the takedowns of Kirk's scene, other than like he mentioned a few times, like, you know, it is one scene, but it is long, and that detracts from it. Didn't like totally work for me, and I thought Kirk just did a good job of building his up and talking about the character moments, the different types of action through it. And that it also might not have a ticking clock, but there is a goal for John at the end. So I thought Kirk did a really good job, though clearly upset with me and Coho. So let's go to Mark, who's deciding this one, and find out who's going to be upset with who after this one.
We'll see. This was a really close fight. I don't honestly, you guys went pretty blow for blow on this one for me. I think you both have really good attacks on each other. I think you I hate this because it's I like both of the arguments really well, and it's really just a matter of me finding a thing to kind of glom onto, and I think Brian's closing kind of just sealed it for me a little bit here. Because I really liked how Kirk closed, at least by attacking Brian scene. Although I sat there, I think kind of Brian kind of brought it all home there at the end, and it just kind of sealed it for me a little bit there.
All right. So with that, Brian hits the point and makes it 2-0, going into the third prep question. So Kirk does need to hit this in order to send it to the fourth question. So the next category was drafted by Kirk. It's in the category of creature features. And I'm looking forward to this one. I think this one is going to be interesting. Your question is, which Planet of the Apes original series character had the most interesting character arc? Kirk, you're kicking this off. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
Character arcs are all about where the character starts, where the character ends up, and everything happens in between. And I think the best character arcs are the times when it's that trip doesn't end well. It might be a little murky, a little darker, and give you more to think about. So I picked Zara from Planet of the Apes as the best character arc. She goes through a lot. She starts out as a mild-mannered scientist, becomes a political activist, ends up as the representative and one of the last remaining people of her race. She becomes a celebrity, a fashion influencer, a feminist icon, and she eventually dies tragically. And the coolest thing about her is she goes from being very positive about humans and their potential and the relationship they might possibly have with the apes, to learning that, that's not the case. And these people aren't so great. I probably shouldn't have felt that way. So I think it's really cool to see where she starts, where she ends up, and everything that happens to her in between. She's a very fascinating character. And it's definitely not like a one-note thing like sometimes.
All right. We're going to bring in Brian. Brian, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The lawgiver sums it up best in his opening speech in Battle for the Planet of the Apes. God sent a world a savior, miraculously born of two apes who descended on Earth from Earth's own future, and man was afraid. Both were brutally murdered, but the child ape survived and grew up to set his fellow creatures free from the yoke of human slavery. The world was ravaged by the vilest war in human history, and great cities of the world split asunder. Out of one such city, our savior led a remnant of those who survived in search of greener pastures where ape and human might forever live in friendship. His name was Caesar, and this is his story in those far-off days. The Caesar of the OG films has quite the journey to become the ape he is by the end of the series, a far cry from the ape he started as. Born Milo, hunted in his youth, living in hiding as a circus chimp, losing his only friend Armando, captured and tortured, losing any faith in the kindness of man, leading a revolt and declaring war on humanity, and only after his son Cornelius is killed by the gorilla Aldo, realizing that apes are no different from humans, and that humans must be treated as equals in order to coexist in the new world.
Okay. All right. Zira and Caesar. 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
The question is most interesting, and I think interesting, you kind of has to pull you in and, kind of keep your wheels turning and thinking about it and what's going to happen next. With Caesar, 10 minutes into Conquest, you're like, oh yeah, he's Spartacus. He's going to be Spartacus. He's going to raise up and he's going to be the leader. And we've seen that story so many times. We've seen Spartacus, Gladiator. You've referenced it's kind of like a Messiah metaphor. It's not really that interesting. It's been done to death. I think with Zara, you have a very interesting character from where she starts, like I said, to where she goes. And you just don't have that with Caesar because it's a predictable storyline. He goes from being good. At the beginning, he's a good guy, and at the end, he's a little bit better. And there's not a lot. I mean, a lot happens in between, but the journey itself isn't all that interesting.
I think just because you were able to predict 10 minutes in where this character is going, and then the fact that you've seen so many movies where this thing has happened before does not make it uninteresting. If you want to call it unoriginal, that's fine. But it's an interesting trope because that's why it's a trope, is because it is an interesting journey for him to go to. He was just born this little nothing monkey with these parents who are not in their own time. And then he goes on this whole arc. If you want to talk about the whole idea of an arc, he goes from being nobody, being a slave, yes, just like Spartacus. Then he goes to become this leader. But the thing is, by the end of it, is when he completes his arc, is when he comes back down from being from hating humans and wanting to basically dominate them and take over the world to realizing the mistake of his ways and how he needs to not only live with humans in peace, but he needs to consider them equals if they're going to survive in this new world.
Yeah, like I said, he goes from being a good guy to being a little bit more of a good guy. With Zara, the cool thing about her, like I said, she starts out in that first movie, she is so positive. She has a very liberal, open attitude about humans. She wants to interact with them and kind of build a relationship with them with the apes. She thinks they might possibly be equals and be more intelligent. And then you see as she goes on, and she's told by Taylor, no, you can't trust them. You can't trust these people. They're bad. She's told by Zaius, you got to hold them down. You got to keep them down. And then you get to Return of the Planet of the Apes, and she's actually encountering the humans that Tyler and Zaius were referring to, which I think is so cool. And she realizes, oh, Zaius was right. Taylor was right. That's why they told us not to trust these humans. And you see that change in her. The other cool change is you see her become like the humans. There's a scene where the famous scene where she swaps the baby with the other ape. She becomes willing to sacrifice an innocent ape child to save her own baby. And that is such a human trait and human quality. And you can see her time with the humans rubbing off on her. And I think it's so cool. Like I said, she's such more murky character than when she started. And I think it's so much cooler and more interesting when you go from kind of bland to, oh, wow, look at all the stuff that happens. And it's very different now and very interesting. Where Caesar, I don't see that with him.
You're assuming that no ape mother would want to give up their ape baby. Why is it necessarily human quality? The whole thing about Planet of the Apes is that apes have taken on human traits. So that's kind of a wash, because that's what they're doing. This is a world where the apes act like humans. And as far as you talking about this big arc she goes on, she basically doesn't change much throughout the whole movie. She starts out as one of the few apes who tries to be kind to humans, who tries to treat them well. She's like learning on them. She's observing them. She's experimenting, but she is being kind to them. She is treating them nicely. And by the end, she's still treating them nicely. Even when she encounters their violence, she still thinks there's this world where they can get along and live together. And it, of course, becomes her own folly, because she ends up getting killed at the hands of humans. But she has not really gone on an arc from the end. She trusted humans at the beginning, and she still wanted to trust them in the end. She was kind in the beginning. She was kind at the end. She doesn't go on much of an arc. The only thing that changes most about her is, as you mentioned, her fashion. I don't care if she changed clothes. I don't care if she became a fashion icon, influencer, or whatever. I don't want to watch her go shopping. But wardrobe change doesn't equal its character arc.
A couple of things. I didn't say an ape mother wouldn't want to save their baby. She actually sacrifices another baby to save hers. The apes. And then you say like the apes should act like this, but Zara was always above the apes. She always was higher up than the apes. She was more enlightened than the rest of the apes. We see her drugged down to their level. And you do see her change. She makes a statement, I don't trust these people anymore. She realizes, and it's, again, you're right, it's too late, and that's what's tragic about her character and makes it more interesting. But beyond that, you also see, like I said, you see her become more active. In the first movie, she's just a quiet, meek scientist, and she becomes more and more forceful. In the second movie, she becomes she's like a political activist. So you see her growing and coming out of her shell more. So she changes a lot. Again, we're talking more about Zara's changes because she has them. Caesar doesn't change that much, so there's not that much for debate about.
Time. Okay. We are starting with Brian on this one. Brian, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
This Caesar was born an innocent son of two apes who were out of time. He lived in hiding and fear, lost everyone who cared for him, lost himself to bloodlust and power. After the hatred and torture he witnessed experience, it's understandable he wouldn't trust humanity, and he would lead a fight against them and declare war. But he gradually realized his mistakes and came to a place of peace. And in the end, he became a symbol of hope for a peaceful joint ape-human society. Caesar is a character with a true arc, one who ends in a very different place at the end than he was over the course of the franchise, a different character who has learned and grown through his trials and tribulations. Zara is a good character, but one without much of an arc at all. She essentially ends not much different than she started out. She starts out as one of the few apes who are sympathetic and kind to humans and ends up the same. Her understanding of humans was flawed in the beginning, and it's still flawed at the end when she expects peace and kindness can prevail, and she herself dies at the hands of ape-hating humans. The only thing that really changes about her, aside from her fashion, is getting pregnant and having a baby and dying, and that's not a character arc. That's just life.
Sorry. Just having a baby and dying. That's life. Oh, sorry. That was funny. Okay, Kirk, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
I don't think Brian watched these movies because everything he's saying about Zara is what applies to Caesar. He starts out in his first movie. He naively believes that humans and apes can coexist. And through his experience, he now experientially believes that humans and apes can coexist. He's in the same place. A lot of things happen, but he ends up in the same place. Not much has changed. Brian's talking about his legacy and what the lawgiver says about him. That's 600 years later. That has nothing to do with Caesar's actual character arc. At that point, he's kind of become a legend. So the character doesn't even really apply. Zara, I said, Brian doesn't understand what happened to this character. She does not end in the same place. She starts out naive about humans. She ends with knowledge about humans and understanding of who they really are. Like I said, Zayas and Tyler were right. And that's what makes her so fascinating. She ends up in a much more murky place than where she started. She's a very basic, innocent, simple character at the beginning. She goes through all these changes and all these events and becomes very different and has a very different understanding of the world.
Time. Okay. So we will bring in the judges. Oh, not you. You. Okay. Brought in someone else on accident. Too many multiplex logos in the back. Okay. All right. You guys ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, Mark, you're starting.
Yeah. Could feel Kirk fighting a bit angry on this particular question. And you gotta be honest. When one person here was explaining their character's character arc, I found myself getting bored, and that not a very good sign. I thought Kirk had this one pretty handily. He made all the right hits. He made an argument that I wouldn't have considered for Zira, kind of just going off the gate. And honestly, every point he made, I very much agreed with, and I don't really feel like there was a ton that Brian could have done here to kind of right the ship. I think Kirk just kind of won this round kind of handily.
All right, Coho.
I don't know if Mark and I watched the same fight. I went with Brian. I swear I like you, Kirk. I feel like Brian made really great points for Caesar throughout the entire fight, and a lot of Kirk's arguments to me felt not a lot, but a little bit like a no you kind of argument, where it was like, well, everything you said is my argument, so I'm going to just repeat that back. And I kind of leaned slightly more Brian because he gave me a little bit more about his character, what made his more unique.
Okay. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't like being the one to decide. That's you guys.
It's fun, isn't it?
That's your guys' job. Okay. Sorry, I had something pop up on my screen, so I'm like losing my mind here. Okay. I went with Kirk. I agree with Mark. I think that I love these movies. Like everyone hates a lot of the old ones. Like I love them. And I think that given when writing questions, I myself have to go through the options. Are there enough available options to make an interesting argument? Because I think the go-to pick is Caesar. I think Kirk did what I thought he did in the last one. Like my co-judges disagreed, but I felt like Kirk took something like the Dragon's Breath fight and like the overhead fight, Caesar, something I really like, and made me he dumbed it down almost and made it seem not as good of an arc as I actually truly believe it is, but I didn't feel like Brian was able to attack it the other way enough. And I thought Kirk on the other side of it really did a good job of, like Mark said, pulling things from Zira that I never would have thought of. Because during his opening, I thought that was actually Kirk's weakest opening, but I thought it was his strongest closing and mid section, because I really did think that he sold me on why Zira's arc from beginning to middle to end goes through many changes and also ends in a very interesting, thought-provoking way. So I went with Kirk. So Kirk gets on the board. It is now 2-1 in favor of Brian. Kirk still needs to hit this next one. in order to send it to the bonus. So if Brian hits this one, he will win the match. The question was drafted by Brian in the category of horror. And the question is, what is the stupidest thing a character has done in a Scream film? Brian, you are kicking this off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Scream, or Scream 2022, or Scream 5, whatever. At the hospital, Tara and Richie are being attacked by Ghostface, and Dewey and Sam show up to save them. After a struggle, Dewey shoots Ghostface multiple times, and they all head for the elevator. Dewey stops the door from closing, saying, "You have to shoot him in the head. They always come back." So he's already made stupid mistake number 1 by not shooting them in the face the first time, when he clearly knows better. He lets everyone else leave, so he's now alone with Ghostface, who he just said he knows is coming back, which is stupid mistake number 2. He walks up to within lunging distance of a killer who still has a knife in each hand, by the way, instead of shooting them from a few feet away, when he knows they're coming back. The stupid mistake number 3. And then while standing in lunging distance, he lets himself be distracted by his phone when he knows the killer is about to come back. Stupid mistake number 4. Of course, the killer lunges at him, guts him with both knives, and Dewey is no more. And not like a Scream 1 fake Dewey death, or the one in Scream 2 for that matter. Dewey is done, getting himself killed by not heeding his own warning and acting stupidly, making it easy for the killer to off him.
Time. Okay. So we are going to bring in Kirk. Kirk, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think oftentimes we're too hard on horror movie characters. We call them stupid when they make decisions in the heat of the moment, life or death situations, where they're under immense stress and pressure and fear. And one bad decision, a costly decision, but it's not a stupid decision; it's a mistake, and a mistake most of us would make. I think the really stupid decisions are when you have facts and information, and you have time to analyze that in the cold light of day, and you still make a bad decision, a stupid decision. And I think that applies to Gail's Stabathon scheme in Scream 4. She finds out that the teenagers are having a party to celebrate the Stab movies in a secluded barn, basically catnip for the active Ghostface killer in town right now. And instead of informing the police, including her husband, and trying to save the lives of the teenagers who will likely be murdered at this event, she decides she's going to go and try and catch him on his own. She does this by placing cameras in the party where she won't catch the ghost or see the ghost. All around, bunch of stupid decisions.
All right. 5 minute free form when one of you starts talking.
You talked about how the stupidest thing is when somebody has facts and information and they still go on and do something. Dewey has 4 movies worth of facts and information. These would be stupid mistakes for anyone to make in the situation, but it's especially stupid coming from Dewey. He's a character who's been around since the very first Woodsboro Ghostface murders, and he's seen firsthand how these things work. Maybe Scream 1, Dewey would do something so careless, but by Scream 5, he's not young and naive anymore. If anything, he's one of the wiser ones of the group, even saying out loud what he knows is going to happen, but then in spite of that knowledge, still makes every wrong move and gets himself killed.
4 movies worth of experience. He knows the roles. He's doing what in these movies is smart. He's going back and getting the headshot. He doesn't get initially because his first instinct, Dewey has always been a protector. His instinct is to help the people around him. So before he goes back for the kill, he makes sure everybody's safe, and then he goes back in. He gets in close for the headshot. You said it was stupid to get close. Dewey is aware. He's smart. He knows he's not a very good shot, so he knows he has to get close to get that shot in. And then you say he's distracted by the phone. Let's be honest. He's in a very tense situation. Best case scenario, he's about to take a human life, which would be stressful and anxiety-ridden for anybody. You hear a sound, your nerves are going to be on. The phone rings for a second, and he glances down. Not like he picks it up or turns around. It's just a sound any sound that he hears, he looks at it, and that just happens to be when the killer comes alive.
As far as Gail's plot, she was not trying to catch the killer. She's trying to maybe catch the killer on camera. Finds it. She was not trying to apprehend the killer herself. She is an investigative reporter setting up cameras, trying to get the story. That's not stupid. It's investigative reporting. That's what she does. It's a tactic that has already worked for her in the past in previous films when she has caught the killer on hidden cameras. And even after the first film where she almost got killed, she was still all about getting the story and getting the book. And that's still in her nature from the beginning all the way up until now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not talking about what the motivations are for the stupid decisions. The stupid decision. Yeah, she's not trying to catch the killer like apprehend. She's trying to get him on camera, but she focuses the cameras out into places where the killer's most likely not going to make his move, not going to make the move in this big crowd. And the other thing is there's a part in this scene where she watches Ghostface cover her cameras up. And he one by one goes through and covers her camera. She sees this happen. She gets on the line with Dewey and she's talking to him and she goes, I have to go fix my equipment. She just watched Ghostface cover her cameras and she thinks she has to go fix them. And then she goes in and puts herself in danger without even regard to anything, just walks in to a secluded place where Ghostface is going to be to fix her equipment, even though she knows it's not broken.
She watched a person in a Ghostface mask cover her equipment. She was wearing a Ghostface mask. Half the people at that party are wearing Ghostface masks. Her first instinct isn't like, oh, the Ghostface killer is going to go around and mess with my cameras. It's just a bunch of drunk people hitting around. Somebody sees the camera. Anybody at the party is going to walk up and mess with that camera. That's just what people do. As
you said, she has 4 movies of experience. She should know better. She's almost been killed by this killer or a version of this killer multiple times. She should be thinking ahead and, hey, maybe that is the killer. And even if it's not, I should assume it is and be a little more careful. Maybe wait for my husband who has a gun and we can go in together. But I'll go in by myself, keep my back turned, not pay attention, and put myself at risk and almost die because of it. Well, she's also in a very public place with a whole lot of people, 99% of whom are not the killer. So she doesn't think there's that much danger when all she's doing is going in to fix the camera because she doesn't know if the killer knows specifically which one she is. Because like I said, she's wearing a mask half the time. Dewey's character has changed so much since the start of the series. He's still got some goofiness, yeah, but he's not dumb, especially in this movie. They found a great, believable motivation to bring him back into the story, as well as to make him more serious and acting as really one of the elder voices of reason. And you talk about how, in the heat of the moment, something can happen. Yes, but he's been a cop for a long time. He knows you don't walk up that close to somebody. Like I said, the person is still holding a knife in each hand to lunge out at him. So it wasn't just one mistake of being distracted by the phone. It was a series of 4 or 5 different mistakes that led to his death. Like I said, I don't consider trying to protect people and make sure everybody's safe a stupid mistake. That is Dewey's nature of keeping people safe. And he goes back, like I said, because he has to get close. He knows he has to. He has to get in there. And again, like I said, this is a heat of the moment. People are almost being killed. He's almost being killed. He just fought off a killer. His nerves are. He might not be making the best possible decisions, but it's not stupidity. It's just a survival instinct that might not be clicking right. But it's not stupidity. He's trying to stay alive, trying to survive, and if he's making mistakes, they're mistakes 99% of us would make. And in your opening, you talked about how it's stupid that Gail was like, instead of calling the police, decided to go on this plot. But then when I called you out on that, you go, oh, it's not about her motivation about it. I know she's got a good story. It's about how she went about doing it. And it's like, so you'd think she should have called the police first. So, and this is not about a stupid thing the movie did. It's about the stupid way that a character acted. And the way Dewey went about this, which is so unlike him, leading to his death, is just the ultimate stupidity. She should have called the cops or got help.
Sorry. Okay. Kirk, we're starting with you. You get 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Yeah, the smartest thing for Gail to do would have been either get the party called off by the police, or if she wanted to help catch the killer, use the authorities to actually catch them. But because she's motivated by her own selfishness, she makes a stupid decision. Again, motivation goes out the window. Dewey is not making stupid decisions here. He's keeping people safe. I said I tore down every one of the arguments. He's keeping people safe. He is making sure he can get the shot he needs to get. He's making smart decision after smart decision. Like I said, he has 4 movies worth of knowledge, and the smart thing to do is go back, get the kill. He is acting in a very high tense situation where there is it's a life and death situation where it's snap decisions every moment. I don't blame him for being distracted by a phone. If I was about to kill somebody or be killed and there was a noise, I would be distracted because my nerves would be on end. That's just the sake of it. Gail made just mistake after mistake after mistake before and after her situation. Dewey was doing the best he could in the situation he was in.
Time. Okay. We're going to move over to Brian. Brian, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
The characters in the Scream franchise, as in any horror franchise, do plenty of dumb things because they'd be much shorter movies with much smaller body counts if they didn't. But Gale's Stabathon plan isn't even the 10th dumbest thing a character has done in this franchise. It's completely in character for her to go and out on her own try to investigate the murders. She knows there's a large killer-inspired gathering where the killer is likely to show up, so she sets up cameras and hopes to catch something. Was it a successful plan? Not really, but it wasn't stupid, and to be fair, she was right. He was there. The killer was just onto her, and her plan didn't result in her own death. Dewey, on the other hand, look, plenty of characters get themselves killed by making dumb decisions. But for a character like Dewey, who knows what to expect, as we have seen him learn from his many encounters, to get himself killed by making a series of stupid mistakes is just a whole nother level of stupid. After 4.5 movies at that point, we care about Dewey. We're sad and maybe even a little bit mad to see him go, but even more mad that it happened in such a stupid, out-of-character way. Gale was just a reporter doing her job. Dewey was a guy who should have known better.
Okay. All right. Coho rubbing his bald head.
I think the stupidest thing someone can do in these movies is become Ghostface, because you never win.
That's fair. I mean, they
There,
kill a lot.
there were several Ghostface moments I considered.
Well, that one scene where you tripped over something? Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah,
Every time.
that was a crazy scene right there. Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
Okay. You guys ready? Oh fuck! And I have to start.
At least you have to finish.
Okay. This was weird. I think both players did a good job of initially setting they did their jobs perfectly. This is weird for me because it's hard. Because both players, I think, did a good job of explaining their scenes, because while I remember the big moments of each one, Brian did a ton to explain every little detail of his, and I thought Kirk did the same for his. I went with Kirk. And I think that this was probably the closest one for me personally. And I just think that he did a great job of kind of convincing me that what Dewey was doing wasn't stupid. And it sucks because Brian did a great job of explaining why Dewey was stupid. But I think that Kirk was able to just take it down. And I felt like Kirk's attacks on Brian's were much stronger than his defense. But Brian was kind of nailing the same points over and over again. It was tough. This was really, really hard for me. But ultimately I did go with Kirk. I thought that his attacks, especially in the latter half of the fight against Dewey, were really strong. But this is like a 51-49. I hate saying that. I don't like it when it's that close. I wish I could just be like you, but especially given the situation. But Mark.
Yes. Especially when we're talking about who's doing the stupidest thing. I think it's a matter of who can explain to me what their person is doing makes more sense. And even though Brian came out swinging on this, I think Kirk was able to outline
Wow.
what Dewey was doing kind of made sense, and how I think almost any way you break down what Gail was doing was kind of silly, and there was no reason why she had to be doing what she was doing, especially everything going on. So yeah, I'm with Kirk on that one.
Okay. Coho, your vote doesn't count. Where are you going and why?
I went with Brian. I swear I like you, Kirk. I think Brian's points I think it was very close. It came down to closings. I think Brian did a great job of explaining to me every time Kirk moved the goalposts on what was stupid about Gale's, countering and following and hammering down exactly why Gale's context makes sense. Whereas for Dewey, Kirk had the 1 point, and Brian found multiple ways, I think, to counter it. So I went with Brian.
All right. Well, before we get into the bonus round, I would just like to say I think we've had 4 split decisions. Each of you won one of your opponent's points. I think Kirk was ready to light my house on fire when he lost Scorsese, and I think Brian's feeling probably about the same right now. So, even playing field, this is as close as it can get. Let's get into the bonus round to decide the match, gentlemen. Good luck to both of you. This is how it's going to work. I randomized what side of Fanzone this question was going to come from, either Fandom or Mayzone. And I say it every time. I don't know why we keep chuckling. And once the side of Fanzone was decided, I randomized the remaining categories that weren't used in the draft originally to come up with the category for the question and then the question. So I am going to say the category and the question. I'm then going to repeat the question. Once I have repeated the question for the second time, you guys are eligible to say your answers. Whoever says their answer first will be going first. You each get 45 seconds and then 30 seconds. Do you have any questions, gentlemen, before we get into it? The side of Fanzone that was drafted was Melee. The category is sports. And the question is simply, what is the best football movie? Again, what is the best football movie?
Remember the Titans.
Any given Sunday.
Okay. I'm going to stay on screen for this. I think Coho's going to weep. I'm going to stay on screen for this. Kirk spoke first, so he's going to be going first. Kirk, you're going to start with 45 seconds for Remember the Titans versus Any Given Sunday. What is the best sports movie?
45 or 30?
You get 45 to start. Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Sorry. 45 to start. Yep.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, Kirk.
I think the best sports movies are the best football movies specifically. I have to connect you to the game as well as the characters. I think there's no better sports movie story than Remember the Titans. You have the segregated school that comes together. I think that's a great, inspiring story based on real life. You have an awesome performance by Denzel Washington as the coach, doing like pure like Denzel at his height thing. You have, the guy who plays this assistant coach. I can't remember his name, but he's really good. And then you have a really solid cast of on the team. Guys like Ryan Gosling playing. And I think it really connects you. As you see this team come together, it really draws you in and connects you, makes you care about them, whether or not they win or lose. You like everybody, and you have a really good time watching it.
Time. Brian. 45 seconds when you start talking.
I think Any Given Sunday is the best football movie because it gives you a little bit of everything. You get the football action, the scenes, the actual sports scenes you want to see. You get to see the head office drama. You get to see the inspirational moments, a victory and things like that. But you also get to see the dark side of the sport. It's not just trying to be, just a feel-good action movie. This is kind of showing the real drama that goes on behind the scenes. You have Oliver Stone directing, a great cast with Al Pacino and Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx and Dennis Quaid and James Woods, all the way to Charlton Heston. It's just a great cast, top to bottom. And I just think that it gives you a little bit of everything you want in a sports movie, and especially being that it's completely about football. It's about the game. You get the action, you get the drama, you get some comedy in there. You get a lot of great characters, all played by a great cast. And I just think that at beginning to end, as far as just what do you want to see in a football movie, this is the best thing you have.
Time, both of you ending early. Kirk, 30 seconds.
Any Given Sunday is an Oliver Stone coke-fueled fever dream. Brian says you get a little bit of everything. You get a little bit of dark side. It's all dark side, and it's all ridiculous. The football action is ridiculous and over the top. The acting is nonsensical. Pacino is just like at his worst Pacino, just screaming and yelling. Doesn't really give you anything there. He's phoning this one in. The rest of the cast, like Heston, is a cameo. Any Given Sunday, you get inspiration, you get enjoy, and that's what you want in a football movie. It might not be the best movie, football movie, though.
Football movie, though. Strike it from the record. Brian, 30 seconds.
Al Pacino voted in is just funny to say, by the way, in this movie. Remember the Titans is a great movie, but it's a movie more about the race relationships and things like that than about football. Football is just kind of the backdrop of this movie, which, yes, it qualifies, but if I want to watch a football movie, I'm going to watch Any Given Sunday. Yours has a great performance by Denzel, but almost nobody else really stands out. You couldn't even remember Will Patton's name. You said that other guy. You can't remember his name. And then there's a bunch of guys. Mine has a great cast top to bottom. I just think that mine is better football to it. Yours is a great inspirational drama. That's it.
Straight from the record. Okay. Jesus.
I don't think my old man memory deterioration should be held against me.
I'm older. Deal with it.
Hey, stop punching each other. Hey. Keep it.
I want it on the record that you guys literally picked my 1 and 2. So this hurts my soul.
I was hoping someone would pick Waterboy, but that's the thing.
There was no danger of me picking that.
You just got the undefeated debate champion of Graham Forks screaming because that's her favorite football movie. Oh.
But you're 1 and 2. It's like, do I want to be happy or do I want to be just depressed? Which kind of movie are we doing?
It's the mood, isn't it?
Okay, one second, my love.
Great match, Kirk.
Good job, Brian.
Gentlemen, I have to cam off for a second to kiss my wife goodnight. 1 second.
Oh.
He's flipping a coin right now, just so you know.
Yeah, he absolutely
I am not flipping a coin. No, I didn't. Fuck off. Okay.
I believe the macaw.
All right.
You've been lawyered, Tim.
Coho is. Oh wait, are we ready? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Coho, you're starting.
I think this was really tough because I think that both of you did things I love and hate in the speed round so much. Brian did the thing where he just listed off cast, which I don't love, but I also didn't love the way that kind of Kirk's rebuttal period for himself, he kind of fell apart and started spinning his wheels a little bit about what he didn't like about Brian, but it didn't really come out in a cohesive way to me. It's tough. I swear I like you, Kirk. I voted Brian.
There's only so many times you can say that, Coho.
I know.
Although I'm on that edge, I think I've voted for Kirk like every time. But
you haven't. You haven't.
Oh, okay, fair.
Kirk's keeping a mental tally. We're gonna find out.
It's written in blood over here.
That's right. Gonna throw a book about gangs in New York at me. Okay. I thought this was great. I disagree with Coho. I thought that Kirk's rebuttal was exactly what it needed to be. It was a both players spent their 45 seconds, which actually ended up being 50 seconds for both players because I fucked up. So haha. They both spent their openings doing what they needed to do of hyping up their movie, and they both spent their closings kind of tearing down the other. I thought that worked really well. Kirk forgetting Will Patton's name does not bother me. Brian throwing that in as a last-minute jab, like, that's fine. The point that Brian makes, though, of Denzel being like the memorable thing, though, that added a little more weight. I think that Kirk's it's just an Oliver Stone cocaine fever dream was a great hit.
He's not wrong.
which is fair. So I thought this was great. As far as speed rounds go, this worked out very well. I went with Brian. And the reason I did at the end of the day was Brian, like I said, I think Kirk's opening and Kirk's closing for himself, fantastic. I think he did everything he needed to do. The one thing that kind of put Brian over to the edge, because the fact that Kirk's movie is like a racial based movie that also happens to be a football movie doesn't bother me at all. Like, that's part of the movie. That's part of the reason why Remember the Titans is a great movie. But I think when Brian said that it is more about that than it is the football, and this movie, Any Given Sunday, is all football action, behind the scenes football. That was a big sell for me on the best football movie. Mark, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
I mean, what a question for my vote to not count. I'll
Sorry,
just say,
I should have let you go first. I'm sorry.
it's fine. I actually did go with Kirk on that one. I really like Kirk's attacks on Any Given Sunday. I thought that was right to the point. That's really what swung it for me, being honest. And cue the I don't hate you, Brian, because I know I voted for Kirk a lot in this match.
Yeah, well, that means your winner is Brian Michaels, moving on to Mayhem at the Multiplex to play for the title. I normally do this last and get final thoughts from you guys, but I kind of want to I want to give them a second. They fought hard on this one. I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts. Mark, let's start with you. What are your thoughts coming out of this debate?
I gotta tell you, like, this is not the way I thought this match would go. I thought it was very interesting to see how Brian just took the immediate 2-point lead, and then almost how Kirk kind of had to reassess. But I mean, I don't think he ever panicked throughout that time being down. He just kind of worked the problem, so to speak, able to fight himself back into it. And it came down to the speed round, and nobody likes the speed round. I think everybody's pretty vocal about that. And it ended kind of the way that we thought it would, just kind of them kind of bashing each other. Like, it was impressive to see Kirk fight back in this one. Although, like, Brian, there were a lot of points throughout this match. Brian had Kirk on skates, and he held the belt before. Like, it's going to be very interesting seeing Brian in a championship match. And I know Cody didn't really want to see either of these players in a match. I think now he really doesn't want to see Brian in a match once he sees this.
Yeah, I think that, before we go to Coho here, I think we've talked a lot about, the Kirk and Cody rivalry, whether it's real or fabricated by my puppet hands. But I think that you said, like, this didn't quite go the way you were expecting. I agree with you. It went the way I was expecting, but in a different way. I was expecting I thought these two were the best of the bunch. it was going to be 2-2. We were going to go to the bonus round, and it was going to be a crapshoot on who was going to win. If I was a betting man going into it, I bet on the number 1 seed, but I think Brian really proved himself here today. Obviously, there were some votes that both players don't love. That's part of the game. I think both players will admit that like shit happens and it's frustrating, but it is part of the game. It's unfortunate, but I think both, like you said, Mark, kept their cool really good throughout all the fights. When it was looking like Brian might have Kirk's edge in the first 2 questions, Kirk stayed calm and collected and made it happen. That cripples other players. And on the other side, then he put Brian on the back end. I thought that Kirk played fantastic the whole time. Brian played fantastic the whole time. Koho, do you have any quick thoughts before we go talk to the players?
I'm going to have a horse head in my bed in the morning, Tim. I think I pissed off Kirk a lot. But I think Kirk and Brian played phenomenal. And if you ask me, I think this is the best debate the league's ever seen. I think these two played amazing front to back, round for round, blow for blow. Even if I voted Brian the whole way through, I think it's by inches. I think Kirk played one of the best games I think I've seen him play, and it wasn't a loss. I think Kirk played phenomenal. I think he rallied really hard, even if I think he kind of got sucker punched there at the beginning, like a punch in the mouth he wasn't expecting. I think he just fought back so hard. I think it was a great game, and I am so excited to see Mayhem at the multiplayer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start by talking to Kirk Kowalkowski. Kirk did not get the win today. I know you've got to be frustrated. I know how much you care about this league, and I love that. You've been such a big proponent for the league, so that's been great. It's been great seeing you back in matches that aren't title matches, and just getting to stretch your legs a little bit in regular season matches. And obviously, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. We will see you back this season before the end of the year. You're not done this season yet. We will get to see you. Bye, Coho. See ya. We will get to. Does he have to go? Oh, he had to leave. Sorry. But we will. What'd you say?
He's running from me.
Yeah, fuck you, Cole. No, anyway. But we will get to see you back later this season. But before we get to that, I know you must be frustrated. I've been in these situations where you lose a debate, you feel you should have won certain questions. I know it can be frustrating. So this is your space to kind of, talk a little bit. How are you feeling post-match here, man?
Yeah, I'm not going to take anything away from Brian. Brian played great. Congratulations to Brian. I expected this to be hard, win or lose. I did not expect a cakewalk here at all. I will say, and this is to Brian's strength, and one of the reasons I didn't want to play him, Brian has this thing. He's kind of made a Teflon, where he has this ability to just kind of ignore your argument, and then also kind of get the judges to ignore your argument somehow. I don't know how he does it. But that's, again, like I said, that's a skill. That's not like, I'm not blaming the judge. Like that, I've seen Brian do this in other matches, and that's why I didn't want to play him. I've never seen anybody else do that the way he does. But no, like I said, that's not in any way a knock against him. I think that's very much his style and his personality plays into it. And so no, I think he's going to be a great match for Cody. I'm very curious to see how Cody approaches this, because Brian's like no other fighter I've seen, and I think he's like no other fighter that Cody has seen. It is going to be a very interesting matchup and a very interesting title match. I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, feel free to ignore this question that I'm about to ask you, Kirk, before we get on to what's next for you in debate. But sitting from the background, you've now played Brian. You've played Cody, 3 times at this point? 3 times?
Yeah.
Which I totally feel like if Cody is still holding the belt at the end of the year, it could be you again. It could be you guys again. I can totally see that. But going into Mayhem at the Multiplex, you got Brian, you got Cody, who's just out of the gate. You don't know the questions. You don't know anything other than their styles, and that I will probably be judging with Mark. Who's your vote?
I vote. Like I said, it's going to be, like I said, I think Cody it's going to be very much like it was for me. Brian is a complete X factor in this league. I've debated a lot of people. I've had close matches with a lot of people. I've blown a lot of people out. So I've seen all different styles, all different skill sets. And Brian is, like I said, something new. So I think Cody may have a better style that goes against Brian better than mine does. But I still think it's going to be a challenge for him to overcome this.
Yeah, and if we know anything about Cody too as a player, he knows how to rally. He has rallied many times against you, even Kirk. So I'm looking forward to that match, but I'm also looking forward to what's next for you, assuming that this doesn't make you want to retire.
No,
Please
not at all. I'm just,
Please
I'm glad you said before, because I'm glad I don't have to wait a year to play again.
Nope.
So yeah, get me back in there. And I'm sure if I want to get back to the title match, I will probably have to play Brian and Cody in some order, whatever order, to be determined. But yeah, get me back in there as soon as possible.
Yeah, so you're not going to be in the next title picture because we've already started setting that one up, but you will be in the final title picture of the year. So you got a couple months off. We'll see you back probably in September, October, that time frame, to be at the potentially be at the final act if you are able to get through that title picture. But you've kind of alluded to it. You've played many people in this league already. You've blown some people out. You've had some really close calls, but excellent matches. But you've played so many people. And I feel like this question is generic as fuck of like, who do you want to play next? But I think for you, like, is there someone that like you are itching to play again, or is it truly like, give me someone new, give me someone I haven't played before?
Right now I want to say give me Coho, because after this match I want to give him another beatdown.
Ooh, nice.
But no, I mean, like I said, I'm always watching. I'm always hopeful for like new players coming through. I'm trying to think of like I like Jacoby would be fun again. Amaru. I'd really like to see some more guys come through like Joe has and like Brian has come up through the ranks and play some of those guys.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of those, like, I don't want to say B tier because I think that's offensive, but people who aren't at the top echelon yet, we're getting a lot of them in that next title picture. So some of those people might be in that next picture with you. So that'll be very interesting. Kirk, congrats on a match well played. I look forward to seeing you later this season. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
but we are going to bring in Mr. Brian Michaels. Brian, like I said, I think that from the get-go, I was going into today thinking it was going to be a 2-2 and a crapshoot. That's genuinely what I thought this whole time. I do think that Kirk is one of, if not the greatest to do this, but you had the upper hand today. Like you won the game. You beat him, and you're going to go play for the title. Now, just don't draft anything Tropic Thunder related against Cody. Please, for the love of God, okay? We don't need to talk about Satan's Alley or anything. Like it's past. You and Cody
really gonna bring that up. Okay.
You and Cody are friends now. It can be fun, right, Brian?
I want to have fun. I know his style is more aggressive. It's gonna be more attacking me, and I'm expecting that. Yeah. But I don't want to get up on that first. I want to talk because first of all, Kirk is every bit as good as I expected to be, as good as I've seen him be. I was surprised to get up in the beginning, but he, I think that Mark said he didn't panic, and that's true. I think not only did he not panic, I think it lit a fire under him, because he definitely was on those next couple questions. He found angles on questions I thought I had a lock on. He found angles to take my question apart and get you guys to vote his way. Honestly, if I thought I was going to lose any of them, it was going to be the John Wick one, which I won. But then I thought I had like Apes and Scream in the bag, just the arguments I had come up with. But nope, he found a way to tear those apart. So, I mean, yeah, he's, like you said, probably one of the greatest to ever do this. If he does have to, whether I win or lose, if he comes up next time and has to face me again like he predicted, I think it's going to be even scarier, because the only thing worse than trying to debate Kirk is trying to debate Kirk, who's got revenge on his mind. He's got an extra kick motivation. So yeah, that'll be something. As far as you talk about think people are mad about the votes. I wasn't mad about a single vote. There's some I was surprised about, but I wasn't mad about any of them. Because I mean, it is what it is, and I've been on the judging side. I've even done the Coho thing where I voted all for, I want to say it was against Barr, and like and it's not a personal thing. It's just based on the argument. I'm glad for anybody to just vote their hearts and not worry about that kind of thing. But yeah, Kirk was great. I think I might have been saved by the fact that I'm wondering if he was holding back like Kurosawa and Romero and some of those ones that he loves to debate. Maybe he's holding those in case he wanted to use them against Cody. Because I would have hated to debate any of those things because I don't know any of those movies and I would have had a hard time. I would have had to watch a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
As far as Cody, it's going to be, I don't know if I'm ready for Cody. I'm going to approach it the same way. I'm going to go and I'm going to have fun debating. And if I win, great. I'm not saying I don't want to win because I do. It'd be awesome. But it's going to be the hardest thing I've done yet. So.
Yeah, Brian, I'm looking forward to this. Easily tonight could have been a title match. Like really, like the way you guys played, the way that the intensity that you guys went with. We got a football question. Mark was ecstatic. That was the most excited I've ever seen him. So very fun match, and I'm really looking forward to you versus Cody. Like I said, I joke and I kid, but I do think that Kirk kind of nailed it on the head. Where I think you've got a style that Cody hasn't had to fight yet, and I think either one of you would have been a big challenge for Cody. Kirk for a fourth time to defend against Kirk again would have been tough, but to go up against someone like you, Brian, who you guys talk a lot, you've judged a lot, but then once you get into a ring, you kind of don't know the person as well as you think you do. I know that from experience of like I've judged with Coho a bajillion times. And then I played him and it was a disaster. And I felt, well, I mean, I won, but I was like, oh my God, what the fuck's going to happen? and he totally surprised me, even though I had watched him debate. And you've watched Cody debate a bunch of times and Cody has watched you debate a bunch of times. But it's just totally different once you get into the game. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really fun way to kick off Mayhem at the Multiplex 7. I look forward to seeing you there, sir. So congrats on the win. We will see you.
Thank you.
In a few weeks for that match. We already got final thoughts from Mark, and final thoughts from Coho before he left and ran away from Kirk. I have been Tim. Thank you guys for watching. Be ready to check out Mayhem at the Multiplex. But coming up next week, 2 weeks before Mayhem, we have Mike Hanley returning to the Fanzone debate ring against Chadwick Webb. That should be a fun match because Mike talks about things that scare me in debate. We'll have a good time with that one. But then we got Mayhem at the Multiplex. It's going to be exciting. Thank you guys for watching. I have been Tim. That is Mark. That was Coho. Thank you to Kirk and Brian. We'll see you next time. Bye.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.